Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, how lawmakers addressed children's issues this past legislative session. A federal program designed to give kids a head start turns 50 this year, and we'll take you to a local Andy Warhol exhibit. That's all next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Eight, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. A three-judge panel of the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals today upheld most of a lower court judge's ruling on racial profiling by the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office. The panel upheld a ruling that Sheriff Joe Arpaio's deputies racially profiled Latinos during regular and so-called saturation stops. Now, the Ninth did side with Arpaio in one respect. The panel ruled that a court-appointed monitor could oversee internal investigations, but only those dealing with constitutional issues. Today's decision comes 1 week before a civil contempt hearing involving Arpaio and a number of his top aides. Advocates for children's issues say that there wasn't much to celebrate during the recent legislative session, and here now to talk about what lawmakers did and didn't do for kids is Dana Neymark, President and CEO of the Children's Action Alliance, and Sam Richard, Coordinator and Executive Director of Protecting Arizona's Family Coalition. Good to have you both here. Thanks for joining us.
Great to be here.
All right, overall thoughts on the legislative session.
It was chilling. It was a scary session for kids. I know Governor Ducey uses the word opportunity to describe the session. Two words come to my mind when I think about it for children: neglect and unbalanced. And those are both very scary for our future.
Talk to me about what you saw from the session.
Yes, I think we saw a legislative session that in many ways was tone deaf, in my opinion. And in one way, we saw the legislature prioritize tax cuts for the most cash-rich corporation in the world and prioritized those tax cuts over TANF. We now have the lowest time limit eligibility of temporary assistance to needy families in the nation at 12 months. 38 states are at 60 months or 5 years. So we really saw what the legislative priorities were, and children and family were definitely not among those.
Talk about that program, and again, what the time limit was before, what it is now, why it changed.
So this is assistance for the poorest mothers and children in our state. And they cut the time in half. And that time is needed for moms to get back on track, get on their feet, get into the workforce, get ready. And the whole point of cash assistance is to keep kids out of crisis while moms are doing that. A year is just not long enough for their lifetime. Sometimes people get back on track and then they have trouble again and they need some help again. A year, we're the only state in the country with that little of a time limit.
Low-income family child care vouchers also cut. Talk to us about that.
That was very discouraging, Ted. We really went backwards, and we've had a year-long conversation with our community about child abuse and neglect and about the need to prevent crisis so fewer cases come into our overwhelmed system. And there was a recognition last year that having safe and affordable child care is a key part of that prevention. This year, they zeroed out the state funding for child care vouchers, and we went backwards. The waiting list is already growing. There's more than 2,000 kids on the waiting list. And we know that and other budget cuts will actually drive up child neglect. When our politicians are telling us they want to reduce neglect, but their votes are in the opposite direction.
What are you hearing from lawmakers? What are you hearing from folks regarding preventative measures like these?
Well, we know that some lawmakers know that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, and a 16-to-1 ROI is a great return, whether you're a taxpayer or a former businessman. I think that you can see value in that kind of ROI, and that's a growing narrative among many lawmakers, seeing the value of preventative services, both at DCS and across other departments.
But that return on investment is not convincing enough lawmakers. Why not?
I think it's a tougher sell because the results aren't here tomorrow. They're there next week, next month, proverbially. So the sell is a little harder, but it's one that's worth fighting for.
A Department of Child Safety, this new department, that budget was cut too, wasn't it?
It was very surprising. They took away funding for the backlog, even though the backlog is higher than it was before. It just doesn't make any sense.
Foster care programs as well. Talk to us about those, because I think you can get into a labyrinth with all these programs, with all these attempts to help with these kids. It seems like foster care needs, they're growing. What's happening at the legislature?
Right. So we have more than 17,000 children in foster care. It is way too high. We need to bring it down, but in the meantime, we need to support those foster families and those children. And they underfunded the budget for foster care, sort of assuming that the population will drop, but they have no plans in place to make it drop.
Money for adoption and guardianship, was that cut? Was it kept the same? Was it what happened there?
I'll let
Okay, Dana, you know about that?
Again, they didn't fund the dollars needed for the growing numbers of kids. So they were skimping. They were just saying, we're going to have a flat budget even though we don't have a flat need in our community.
And Ted, outside of the specifics, I will tell you that we were very concerned about the pace of the budget in addition to the specifics in there. From introduction of the budget package to passage was roughly about 72 hours. So there wasn't a lot of time for lawmakers to really unpack what was in there, whether they were good programs or bad programs. 72 hours did not really provide a lot of room for the conversation to happen.
And yet we have leadership on the show every month, and they said basically the governor's budget was out there for weeks on end. Everyone saw it, everyone talked about it, and they didn't change much to it at all. They say there was no rush.
The framework of the budget was there, but many of the details were missing up until hours, in some cases minutes, before they were voted on, and that is just inexcusable.
Education, core student funding. Explain again why we hear lawmakers and the governor saying that education was not cut, and yet per student funding, core funding, looks like it might be cut.
Yes, in many ways, there's different ways to look at it and talk about it, but the only way to really say that education wasn't cut was to explain it away with sort of accounting gimmicks or sort of a shell game. Dollars from the classroom were cut. And not only from the classroom, but even those outside of classroom dollars, those affect inside of classroom experiences. Hungry kids can't learn. Kids that aren't supported by behavioral psychologists or other out of classroom support services are unable to really give their full attention to learning inside the classroom.
And what is student success funding, and what happened to it?
Well, I know you've been asking that in a lot of your shows, and nobody has an answer because nobody knows, and it's all up on the 9th floor being developed, so we don't know what the new student achievement district will be. The money that they cut was a prior performance funding that was classroom money that they took out of the classroom to put into this pool for we don't know what yet.
And as far as technical education, schools for those kinds of things, they didn't escape either, did they?
Right, and that was one of those surprise cuts that came up in the last 2 days. Cuts to technical education, cuts to schools where their population is declining. Those were brand new ideas that emerged in the last couple days right before the vote.
I want to get to some things that were considered success, well, kind of a success as far as kids are concerned. But again, lawmakers will say there's only so much that they could cut. There's so much mandated, so much voter protected, and education, child services, those are there for the taking. How do you respond?
So every year, except for one, since 1990, we've had a cut to revenue. So there are two sides to the ledger, and we believe there are choices to be made, and we've chosen to cut our revenue instead of use those revenues to fund the programs that deserve funding. Children, families, and taxpayers, frankly, across the state of Arizona deserve a fully funded safety net.
And yet they will say that a better economy by way of tax cuts means a better economy, means better environments, better the whole 9 yards for kids.
If that was true, I think we'd see those results. We've been doing this for 25, 26 years, and we just haven't seen the data, and I'll refute that every time it comes up.
And Ted, we need to point out the contradictions because the same legislators who voted yes on the budget cuts, they said they had to do it because there was no money. They then voted yes on more and new tax cuts that the governor signed. Those legislators said our top priority is putting the budget into structural balance, and that's what Governor Ducey said. Then they passed tax cuts that unbalance that budget. So we have an unbalanced budget and children are left behind. Neither one is good for the state.
Before you go now, a tuition waiver scholarship for foster kids, that was a success.
It was, and we're very thankful. There was great legislative support. It was sponsored by Representative Kate Brophy-McGee, and it will allow more kids who lived in foster care to get a secondary education and succeed.
And we mentioned the Department of Child Safety. It seems like that role, that department was somewhat clarified.
There were some bills passed, again, to keep working on accountability and transparency. We have more work to do. They did continue the Oversight Committee, which will be important because we need that community and legislative dialogue as the department continues to tackle the crisis.
And information on near-fatal cases, I know that was in there as well.
Right, so there will be more reporting on those types of cases for the public.
Last point, I want to go back to what I hear from leadership when they're on the program, and they are saying that there is no disconnect here, and they are only doing what Arizona citizens want done. They feel as though they were elected, they ran on certain platforms, they are now putting those platforms into action. Again, how do you respond?
So I think the work that Dana's organization does, the work that PAFCO does, speaks to that in some way. Arizona is vulnerable, whether it's children, families, or vulnerable adults, don't have a loud voice, and that's what we do as organizations. And I think in many ways, what we need to focus on here in the intercession is rallying around those folks and helping them speak to that, because there is a quiet movement that really is sort of resisting that rhetoric, and there is more to say there.
Quiet? Too quiet, maybe?
It's not so quiet anymore. I think a lot of parents who voted for Governor Ducey were surprised when he cut school budgets, because when he campaigned, he didn't say he would cut schools. He didn't say he would cut child safety. They did not expect that. So a lot of parents were very active and visible at the Capitol, and people are still talking and not going away.
All right, it's good to have you both here. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
The Head Start program is turning 50 this year. Head Start began as part of Lyndon Johnson's War on Poverty and continues to provide a variety of services to poverty-level children and their families. Jonathan Adam Gonzalez is director of the Arizona Head Start Association. Welcome to Arizona Horizon.
Thank you for having me.
Give me a better definition of Head Start.
Head Start is a comprehensive early learning and education program. What our programs do and our grantees in the state of Arizona and across the nation do is provide classroom-based preschool settings that are high quality, that engage parents in parenting practices, but also track children's health outcomes as well. We do things like literacy events and activities outside of the classroom as well.
So this is, are you talking basically poverty-level kids under the age of maybe 5, somewhere around there?
It's a good question. We have a variety of options for families. It's 130 to 135% of federal poverty, but that's not the only guidelines that we have for families. If they have a child with a developmental delay or who may qualify for special education, we're mandated by federal law to serve up to 10% of our enrolled children who may have a qualifying disability. So it's a really on a case-by-case basis. So what we tell families is, let's bring you into our enrollment offices, take you through the application process and see if you qualify.
How associated or independent from school districts are you?
Highly associated. Not all sites are connected to a school district site or your local school districts that folks may know, but some of them are. But we do bridge those instances where we're not in communities where there's integrated in a school district by partnering with the local through Department of Education and those local districts through what's called the EQUIP teams. The EQUIP teams are based out of the school districts, and then we, through our Head Start programs, try to bridge families so that way kids, when they come out of Head Start, they can flow right into kindergarten.
So what happens at a Head Start center?
Everything fun. I was a former Head Start parent. Both my kids, both now 19 and 17, went through Head Start. Everything from, like I've discussed, early education experiences, playing with manipulatives in the classroom, parent literacy nights, follow up on wellness, EPSDT checks, wellness checks, oral health care screenings, you name it. Head Start's been doing it for 50 years, and doing it well.
And these centers aren't necessarily, as you mentioned, at schools, correct?
It could be faith-based organizations, nonprofit locations, but typically we try to find places based on our needs assessments that each grantee does, to make sure that they're well situated where we'll have the most impact and the most need.
How is Head Start funded?
Head Start funding is through title funding through the federal government. Like you discussed in your opening, since 1964 when Lyndon Johnson passed the acts to counter the war, to begin the war on poverty, it's been funded through reauthorization acts through the federal government.
And with these reauthorization acts, whenever this comes up, there's concern, especially of late, it seems like there's more conversation. How do we know that Head Start works?
There was a recent study, and you have heard in the past probably some fadeaway effect and those kinds of things. I used to work at another state organization, First Things First, around brain science, and we fortunately had a lot of brain science to debunk all of those kinds of myths around the fadeaway. And what we found through the recent studies through Head Start and the Office of Research and Evaluation, U.S. Office of Research and Evaluation, they did almost a 10-year study. It was since 2002, over 5,000 children, and they found huge impacts in terms of literacy, social emotional development. Social emotional development is the simple things. Being able to engage in the classroom. Imagine being 3 or 4 years old and this may be your first social experience. How do you get along with other kids? We measure those things. We have the tools to be able to say we're having an impact. And
we should mention that fadeaway effect has been talked about quite a bit, because the idea being that, yes, this is great for pre-kindergarten and maybe good for kindergarten, probably pretty good for first grade, but by second, third, and fourth, it fades away. You're saying studies are now showing that doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen, but you also have to have the infrastructure and supports at your local school districts and the funding. We heard in the previous segment with your previous guests that we have to make sure that we have the ongoing funding to support children's education, so that doesn't happen.
So how do you, in order to keep again this funding, because right now funding is it's the major topic for everyone everywhere. So and someone says, well, this is fine, but how do you make up for bad parenting? And even Head Start can't do that, can it?
Well, what we do through Head Start is engage parents. It's part of the outcomes that's required through the federal act around Head Start, which really has what we call parent-family engagement component. And what that component says is parents have to be involved at a certain level to continue to participate in the program. So things like I discussed, parent education nights, literacy components, and talks to families and engages families in a way that shows them various parenting techniques. I'll give an example. As a young dad, I was a teen dad, Head Start parent, I used to talk to my children standing up. Well, if you get on your knee and talk to children eye to eye, it's very simple. And these things will change the behavior and outcome of how you parent and how they react to you. So I think that what people don't understand is it's a holistic approach to how we engage families and work with families.
And last question, has that approach changed over the years?
Oh, definitely. I think that in the 50 years of Head Start, there was a recent Annie Casey study that was called a two-parent approach. And that two-parent approach, or two-pronged approach that Annie Casey Foundation put out there, looked at ways that families on a multi-generational level engage with their children, lifetime learners, right? And what we found from that study and the work through Head Start is Head Start's been doing that for many years, since 1965. And how they've changed is they've done it they've found ways to improve on those things.
All right. Well, very good. It's good to have you here. Happy 50th anniversary, I guess, to Head Start. And
thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Tonight's edition of Arizona Art Beat looks at one of the most famous artists in modern history. Andy Warhol is known for his quote that in the future, everyone will be famous for 15 minutes. Warhol's own fame has lasted a lot longer. Producer Shauna Fisher and photographer Kyle Mounds take us to the Phoenix Art Museum for an exhibition of Warhol's portraits.
Andy Warhol is the very definition of art imitating life. His portraits were of celebrities who often became his friends, and his time in the New York club scene is legendary. But that was just a small part of who Warhol really was, according to curator Jerry Smith.
Yeah, Andy Warhol is an individual. He grew up from an immigrant family living in Pittsburgh, in blue-collar, working-class Pittsburgh. He had a nervous disorder that kept him out of school quite often, and he spent that time when he was home alone reading movie magazines. And making clippings and sketchbooks of movie stars, and he had this early obsession with film.
He also loved to sketch, and his mother encouraged him.
So when he graduated college, he went to New York, and in the 1950s, he was one of the most popular, sought-after commercial illustrators, and was making upwards of $150,000 a year in the 1950s.
During that time, he connected with many celebrities. They would pose for him, and he would turn that photo into a work of art. He utilized a silk screening technique that we now appreciate as something distinctly his.
His main emphasis was using the silk screen process of taking a photograph, just like you find in a newspaper, and having it made into a silk screen and then running ink through the screen to create the image. And that's why you see variations in images, because he used these silk screens that would get clogged with the ink, or the registration of the colors wouldn't be exact, and he encouraged that.
Nearly 200 portraits are on display in this exhibition, from Sylvester Stallone to prima ballerina Heather Watts. Along with portraits, there are Warhol's early works, pencil sketches, and ink drawings.
Putting together this exhibition was a lot of fun because of the bright colors in the work. We went through a palette of different things and selected blues and pinks and purples and yellows that are very vibrant and indicate colors you find in the work, and yet they have a real 80s feel to them. And also, with the color, we wanted to kind of play with the ideas that you find in the art, which is the registration of colors don't always line up. So we weren't necessarily completely concerned with if a painting would be perfectly on one color or another.
Warhol was also an avant-garde filmmaker. In a room is a look at his movies and screen tests. There's also an area where you can do your own screen test. An old-fashioned Bolex film camera sits on a tripod and records you. Then the screen test is emailed to you. There are other areas where you become part of the exhibit, like the Silver Clouds room.
Warhol wanted this idea of sculpture that floated. And initially he was thinking light bulb, but that took too much effort to try to create a design. So he ended up making silver clouds, which are these silver mylar balloons that float. And he would have those floating about in his silver factory of his studio space that was lined with aluminum foil and silver paint, and these balloons would be floating about, and the Velvet Underground, the band that he produced, would be playing, and these balloons going and films playing across everything, and it was a full-on experience.
There's also the selfie wall with wallpaper featuring images of Warhol. You can take a photo here and post on social media.
What would Andy Warhol do with social media? I really believe that if Andy Warhol were alive today, we probably wouldn't even be calling them selfies. We'd be calling them Andys, because he would have had them out there. You know, we would have Warholograms, not Instagram. I think he would have eaten that up.
Smith says, contrary to what many people believe, Warhol wasn't overly into the social scene. He worked very long hours. And it's that emphasis on the work that Smith believes is the reason Warhol's fame has lasted longer than 15 minutes.
There is often a divide between the artist and the work in our own time, but I think we see these works and we get it. We get it, they're bright, they're colorful, they're fun, and people enjoy them. And I think that's one of the reasons Andy Warhol, or many of the reasons Andy Warhol is so famous still today.
And the Warhol exhibit is on display until June 21st.
We want to hear from you. Submit your questions, comments, and concerns via email at arizonahorizon@asu.edu.
Thursday on Arizona Horizon, we'll hear from both sides on the death penalty debate, and we'll learn about national legislation that could end the crackdown on state medical marijuana programs. That's on the next Arizona Horizon. That's it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thanks for joining us. You have a great evening.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Eight, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.
Arizona Artbeat is made possible in part by the Flynn Foundation, supporting the advancement of arts and culture in Arizona.